Hello. I decided to come on the balcony today and buenas tardes. Hola. Hi, everybody. It always takes me a couple of minutes to figure out the Facebook. I need to find a way to do Instagram as well. But people in my age group, we're pretty much on Facebook. Hola, Deborah. We like on Facebook. It's kind of there's an age delineation. The millennials are on Instagram, and then those Gen Xers and Gen, I get them all mixed up. Um, are like on TikTok and on Threads. I'm not on any of those things. I decided I do have an Instagram account, and I tried to link that with the Facebook. And I said, that is as far as I'm willing to go. I am not willing to, it's too much to keep up with. My sister, I can't even get her to get on WhatsApp. She's like, if you want to talk to me, you call me. I mean, she made a sacrifice for email. She'll get email, but that's about it. Anyway, welcome to the live, guys. Whenever I promise you I'm going to be on, I'm going to be on. And I think we said, oh my God, my face, I've had the biscottis. But I get to purge now, and I'm not cooking for Christmas. There were a couple of sisters. I said I'll make a couple of frittatas and then fruit and salad, but nothing else. Not no nothing heavy. No meat and oh my God. And tomorrow I have to do that cornmeal. That's carbs. Oh well. Hola, hola, hola. Well, I'm able to sit on the balcony today because, first of all, hi, Lynette. It's not very hot, which is a blessing. About this time, we should be starting in the dry season. But I read that they said the rainy season has been extended. And yesterday we had a downpour. I was meeting a family next door to my building. We have a cafe, and the heavens open. And because I was just crossing the street, I didn't bring my umbrella. Girl, there was a lake between that restaurant and my building, so I had to get in it to cross. It's crazy. Lots of rain yesterday, but today the clouds are hanging, but no rain. But anyway, we are here also because of the holiday, so traffic is really light. Otherwise, you would hear all the honking and so it's really light. Banks, whenever you have a major holiday like that, the banks are closed. There's no school. It's a Saturday. Um, so you saw my post about what the remembrance is today for Panama. And every time thank you, darling. Every time I Please like the video, you guys. You know I'm not gonna get to 20K by the 31st. That's not gonna happen, but it is what it is, right? Um, so the remembrance about things that have happened to Panama, in Panama as a small country, horrific. But we know that's what's happening all around the world, right? You know that this is the world system. And this is the thing I tell people. I was in my 50s when I realized really what the world system was like, that it wasn't designed for people to look like me, to be naturally accepted and successful. So we had to work a lot harder, that somewhere in the cosmos, the group of, and I'm being very diplomatic here, of people decided that they were the rightful owners, deservers of everything that is good, everything that makes you rich, that you can enjoy. So they created this strata of, they're up here, maybe some in the middle, and people like me are like, at the bottom. And the whole system is designed to keep you in your place. And they have allowed some to achieve a certain level of, and I know some people don't agree with that, but that was my aha moment, that people who thinks, oh, I got there through my efforts, and I'm like, you've just been allowed to go through. All right. So don't pat yourself on the back and thinking that it's all because, and of course, no system is 100% tight. So some people do slip through and make it. But all the wars and genocides and everything that have happened throughout the centuries have been because those at the top, either they were bored or they decided to go on a grabbing. And when they find something that is beautiful, fertile, and can work for their own interest, meaning enriching them, having them become owners of more, then they go after it. And going after it means the end justifies the means, right? It doesn't matter how many you have to kill, it doesn't matter how many you have to maim. The goal, victory is the goal. And there is no morality attached to the journey. It's like, I want it, therefore I'm going to get it. And however I get there, details. And then that has not changed. Look around you. That is what's happening. So when you tell people that nothing is new under the sun, that's exactly what we mean. And I think as people at that lower level, the sooner we realize that is the way it is, and I'm not going to say the better off we're going to be, because you can't, this is a challenge. Once you come to that realization, you can't just kind of lay and say, oh, well, you know what I mean? That fatalistic, fatalistic attitude that there is nothing you need to do. You somehow have to find a way to strive, succeed, and make something of yourself while you're fighting the system, which people call the matrix. It takes wisdom to get that happy medium. How do I navigate life knowing the system that I live in, that I need to function in? And you know what? At 67 years old, I was hoping the system would have changed. But once I realized the system, those at the top are committed to keeping it that way. And anytime something or someone comes that challenges that, It's a sad realization, but wisdom gets you there, because if you are going around thinking that, you know, somehow, if you work hard and if you try, we're going to change this world system, I can tell you, you're not. So today, and as I said, that is a daily challenge, to remain hopeful in the midst, despite, to continue the fight, because what choice do you have? What choice do you have? You cannot. If your psyche tells you, oh, well, you know, there's no hope, you can't fight this giant, and that's when people get in that deep hole that sucks them in. And that's when depression and suicidal thoughts come in, because you feel like there is no hope. We can't fight this giant. But you have to find a way to grab onto something. And this is what, when I talk about in wisdom living, I say you need an anchor. You need an anchor in this crazy, crazy life. And if you don't, you're going to feel lost. You're going to feel despondent. And the system is designed to keep you sick, to keep you poor, and they divide and conquer. That's the way the system works. If you're not a certain shade and you don't belong to the VIP club where, you know, they keep it all among themselves, their descendants, their families. And when you look at system, financial, legal, social, real estate, education, oh my God, okay? But throughout the centuries, if you read history, we have waves. That's what I call them, right? Because somehow somebody, a leader, a martyr, will rise up and fight, and then the people at the bottom may be, you know, not empowered, but be inspired to continue fighting. And of course, they cut them at the head once they leave. So you have a little lull, and then the top rises again. It's like, oh, hell to the no. What did you think? Mm-mm. You go back down where you belong. This is a sad realization. So in the context, I started to kind of frame. I like to frame things for you to understand where my mind is, because if we're going to talk about, we said we're going to talk about history, and Panama's history. Panama is a very small country in Central America. It is not big. It does not have a lot of land mass, and I don't have the numbers. Every time I say a number, somebody corrects me. I said President Noriega, and somebody said, no, he wasn't a president, he was a general. Oh, thank you for the correction. And then I said, we're going to have Day of the Martyrs in January, on January 8th. And this person said, it's January 9th, darling. And I'm like, oh, thank you so much. And I don't mind being corrected. I don't know. I'm not Panamanian. Even if I were, I might mess up the dates, right? But we want to understand. And why do you need to know about Panama's history unless you're a historian? You know, you thrive on stuff like that. But it's nice to know. And I always say that not history, culture is how a group of people move around the world, right? So if you were born in Iceland, you know, you have a certain, the way you think, you carry yourself a certain way. Your family social structure is a certain way. Food, right? Your thought about marriage, children, family, um, even health. I have to tell you, when I was a nurse, we really needed to, we were taught to frame health within the cultural uh, uh, contrast of a group of people, because When I'm taking care of somebody from the UK and then basing it again on their ethnicity within the UK system, then I have to understand how they perceive health and the whole hierarchy within the family. I remember when I went to England and I took a 3-week nursing course, there was a lot of education about the Asian population that is in the UK because, UK was one of the largest colonizers. So they were in India for the longest time. So you had a lot of people from Pakistan, India, in the UK, like we have the Afro Caribbeans here in Panama, because they did all their dirty deed, but then some people stay and they establish families, and you have a lineage that way. But we had to understand that they have to prepare their food a certain way. If you work in OB and a woman was giving birth, oh my God, that was a big to do with the draping and the sense of decency and all that. So you really need to understand. So what we want to talk about today is when you're coming over to Panama, and of course, I just finished a video that is just like a webinar for people who are in the early stages of relocating, whether to Panama or anywhere else. I hit the different points they need to consider. And of course, no video is going to give you every piece of information that you need. So you still need to do your homework, right? But you want to come with the knowledge of the history of the country, and to see why they feel the way they feel, why they move around a certain way, why they eat what they eat, why they believe what they believe. That's all culture, right? And it is good for you to understand that, so you know how to interact with the locals. And that is also going to not only enrich your experience, but it will give you greater understanding of the locals, and definitely limit your level of frustration with certain things that might clash with your personal culture and expectation, right? One simple example would be the manana mindset. In a lot of smaller communities, not necessarily the West, Canada, US, UK, people in those areas, in islands and smaller communities, there is a certain level of more relaxation in terms of time. The concept of time is so different. So while you come from the West and you're very rigid and regimented, um, and then you're like, if you make an appointment, you better show up, or if you're gonna be 5 minutes late, you call. And then you come to a place like Ghana, Haiti or Jamaica, and everybody's just kind of chilled. It's gonna get done, but what's the rush? Where's the fire? So if you understand that before you get here, then you're like, oh, okay, well, I know what I'm getting into, right? You got to prepare your psyche to deal with it. That doesn't mean you're not going to get frustrated sometimes, but just knowing ahead that's what your life is going to be, it's going to make you, I would hope, a little bit more flexible and relaxed and say, oh, yeah, all right, well, it will happen. And I tell people graciously, I said, if you come to Panama and you're trying to set up some appointments, don't make 2 appointments in a day, because the second appointment will happen. One, one a day, because time is on a different wavelength here, right? So that's one simple example. So if we were to look at the history of Panama, Panama is in Central America. I come from the Caribbean. We're all kind of like in that general area where we were all dealing with the same the same situations engineered by those at the top, right? I remember when I was in school, the story of Christopher Columbus. What was it? Was it December something? There was a day, I don't even remember now what the day was, that we celebrated Christopher Columbus discovering America, right? All right, let's say you were an explorer at that time. You got on these boats and you're like, yeah, let's just go see what's out there. You're curious. I'm curious, which is, I understand that. And then all of a sudden, you're like, hi, yo, we see land, right? And then they discovered this beautiful, gorgeous, like, oh my God, you mean outside of Europe and in our different neighborhoods, we got all this beauty out here. And of course, the mindset goes, we want it. It's ours. That's where the psyche goes. And that's what starts all the cascade. So, as a group of entitled folks, even though some were running from persecution wherever they were, but because of the virtue of who they were, in their mind, this is ours. And it wasn't just the general or the presidents or the kings who just said it's ours. Everybody felt entitled to just grab. And when they grab, they want it. And if somebody was in that spot, you got to eliminate the target. Yeah, because you convince yourself this is the way your mind works, that this fertile land, this beautiful crops or whatever is out, it's yours. So whatever you do to get there is sanctioned, it's approved by the powers to be. Oh yeah. So they discovered these lands, and of course, the indigenous people were there before they arrived. You've seen the movies, right? How they try to recreate the Indian. They presented them as savages with the bow and arrow. Well, they had to defend themselves because they didn't have guns. You disseminate them, you grab their land, you rend them off, you kill them. Remember, the goal, whatever means you use, got nothing to do with them. There was no notion of justice. That's a foreign concept to somebody who's a grabber. What do you mean? I'm just taking what is rightfully mine. The conscience doesn't come into play. There's no morality. There's no, we can put children to work. Hey, we need somebody to work the land. Who cares if they're 15? Who cares if they're 8? And of course, they're human, so they have to take care of their sexual needs and desires. So grab, rape, assault, all in the name of that's what I do because that's what is mine. And that's the way I came to understand it. So when somebody says, oh, if there's a God in heaven, he would not allow these things to happen, I stay away from that notion because that's where you're going to lose yourself. If you think that this higher power is all about justice, and I'm going to try not to cry. When you see the level of injustice, that is perpetrated against people who are perceived to be less than, smelly, ugly, inferior, non deserving, I do ask the questions like you do. Have you found the answer? I haven't. And this is why I have to guard my heart because I always say in my psychiatric mind that there is a fine line between sanity and insanity. You have to nurture your psyche to keep it on this side, because the closer you get to this edge, sometimes it doesn't take much for you to just fall over. So you have to work on yourself to keep yourself on this side. When you look at all the egregious things that somebody who calls himself human, a whole group of people, can decide and justify the action. I was watching the video from George, is it George Bush Sr., when he sent the soldiers to attack Panama, and he said, I have authorized blah, blah, blah to protect American lives. But in the quest to do that and get Noriega, they killed hundreds, if not thousands, of innocent people who were just at home, minding their business, living their little lives, and then all of a sudden, chaos, people dying, buildings collapsing. Yes, you have got to keep yourself from going down that rabbit hole. And I believe this is how some people get into the suicidal realm. When you get so deep, you can't see the light. It's hard to get back up. And that's why some of them, even as a psychiatric person, I can tell you, sometimes you think, they always say, oh, reach out, call somebody, but you may or may not have been able to save that person. So sometimes the survivor guilt that people feel, it's not warranted. It's not. So when they came, let's go back to the story. When they came, they grabbed, they killed, they enslaved. But then they see the crops. Oh yeah, we want to grow this and that and trade, and we keep going way down, and all that ocean fishing and all that. So now you want more. So if you didn't have enough locals to do the work, so you're like, let's see where else we can grab some other inferior beings, but who are strong to come and do this work. So they started going to Africa and got the slaves, killed a lot of them on the voyage, all from Africa to the Caribbean. Yeah, we know that story, don't we? But when you started going to the jungles of Africa and you see young men, young women, and then you kind of throw that rope and you grab him like you're fishing, there's no conscience. There is no sense of right or wrong. There is no sense that we're dealing with a human being, because you're not seen as human. This is the psyche you have to understand. When you say, how can he do that? He can, because his mind is not wired like yours. Either he's been programmed or he's chosen to go down that rabbit hole where you lose all sense of propriety. So people like that do not feel guilt. So if you're waiting for this being, and I'm a believer, because that's what keeps me sane. So if you're going to be asking questions, demanding, I want to know why you allow all this to happen. And recently I've said that to myself. I say, you know what, I'm going to quit asking the questions, because if I go back in history, these things have been happening. You've allowed these things to happen. So I don't have a point of reference. So they brought people from Africa. Then the colonizers are like, oh, we like the way Panama is shaped. Like if we could get cut across there, we could kind of keep people from having to go all the way to Antarctica and then have to turn around to go back to Europe. canal ideas. If we could do like, I think they thought maybe a railroad, was going to go through, and I know somebody's going to, hola, somebody's going to correct me. Initially, it was going to be, whoo, okay, it was going to be a railroad, and then this French, uh, was he an engineer, I believe? He wanted to create something in Panama based on the Suez Canal in Europe. But what they did not bank on was the ruggedness of the terrain, because now you're in the Caribbean, you're not in Europe. We're talking about disease, yellow fever, and this and this and that. And the French people that they brought, the workers, started to die, right? I didn't bring my fan. So they started losing people and they couldn't make it work. So the Americans, who are always kind of looking, said, okay, we can take it over. But then we want to control that canal. If we build it, we want to control it. So they did better, I have to say, they're very smart. But they still needed more manpower. There was still, I think there was a doctor, if you watched the movie with Morgan Freeman at the Miraflores, and I think there was a doctor who, was it yellow fever that was really challenging them, something like that. But he made some kind of discovery and they were treating it better. But still, they would needed more manpower. And they say, oh, we know who can do this rugged work. Let's bring some more brown people. So they didn't go all the way to Africa, even though they were still trading. They said, oh, well, we have some others in this general area. Let's go to Jamaica. Let's go to Trinidad. Let's go to Barbados. Let's bring some of them in. It wasn't, looked at as slavery, more workers. But remember, though, you are still not at the level at the top. So you're not going to be treated like that. We want you to do the work, but we're going to pay you less because you're not worthy to get the same salary as the others. I remember going to Puerto Armuelles here in Panama, closer to the Costa Rica border. And you could see, they show you the homes that they built for the workers who were at the top. Nice, big, expensive home, 2-story, beautiful. And then you walk a little bit, then you see the lower class dwellings. For the silver, remember, they had the gold system and the silver system. The gold system, who was considered gold, and the silver were those who were not considered worthy. So the same mentality from was brought down here. But when the canal was finished, I think in 1914, and I know someone's going to correct me if I'm wrong, they were managing the canal. That means the ships were going through, they were paying their fees, and Americans were collecting that, paying their workers, because you had to manage the whole logistics of it, right? And around that time, Panama had become part of Colombia, Grand Colombia. And then Panama wanted to get away from Colombia. So the Americans said, we'll help you, we'll help you. And they did. And Panama separated from Colombia. So the Americans were managing the canal for a long time. And they established a system here, the canal zone there was a nice real demarcation, an elite area for their top people. Now you had lower class people allowed to come in and work, doing lower level jobs and getting paid lower wages, where the silver and then the gold were there. So if you go to places like Clayton and other places here in the city, you see the homes Like I told you, Puerto Armuelles, you'll see the home. So everything was coordinated to create a system where you have an elite and the locals were still here. But the event of the January 9th, and I don't remember the year, I'm not going to say it because someone's going to correct me, where inside the canal zone they were flying the American flag. And some kids from a high school closer, because this is where you are saying if the injustice is being perpetrated against you, you cannot roll over and play dead. That's what I'm saying. You got to save yourself. So you got to hang on to something to say, this is not right. I cannot accept it, whether it's in your mind or in deeds. You have got to do something, right? So these kids were upset. And they said, if you're going to fly this flag in our country, we want you to fly our flag too. Oh my gosh. That started a big brouhaha. So they said, nope, nope, get away, get away. You have guards watching the perimeters, right? So the story goes, and again, correct me, the kids went back to town and told some people what had happened. And the people, you know how things get started. People get offended, and a group came, they're rioting and then scuffling. Next thing you know, shots are fired and people die. I do not remember how many people died, but that was a stain on the relationship. It created tension between the locals and but even here now in Panama, when you talk about the canal, the Americans, because Panama is between two bodies of water. So you have the Colon area with the Caribbean side, and you have the Pacific area. People had jobs, and people were able to feed their families within that unequal system. But I think it was after that incident that when people were so upset, now we have a monument dedicated to those kids, and not just the kids, the people who died fighting for the right to fly their own flag in their own country. So there was a president, I think it's Trujillo. They started talking to Americans and saying, this is unacceptable. And of course, I'm sure they have been thinking about how to take control of their canal in their country. And people started, negotiating, and they negotiated to return the canal to Panama. So sometimes you hear of people called zonians here. Those are the people who maybe were born in the canal zone during, it was a long time that the Americans were here. And it is another reason that I hear people say all the time Panamanians are used to having Americans around. What surprises me is how open they are to us. Now, I keep a low profile. I don't comment. I'm right now. I'm just relating and sharing a history that is known by everybody. You can go to Wikipedia, you can see it, but I don't make it a point to comment about how Panama conducts its business. I'm just very humbled and grateful that after everything that has happened between this country, a sovereign country, and the big giant over there, that they're still talking to each other. But you know what? When you have a bully and you have a giant, and you know that some of your livelihood depends on the bully, you have to find a way to work with him or it, right? And I think that's what's happening. A lot of these countries don't like each other, right? But you still have to trade. So when a certain person goes and says all these vile things, and you see them sit there and they shake hands, that's just business. General Omar Trujillo, yes, gracias. Initiate a conversation. See, they're here. Keep me accountable. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. But if there are any Panamanians here, and I think Horario is one, and some other folks who comment on my videos, I want you to know how much we appreciate your openness. And I have to say that perhaps you are mature enough to realize that we had nothing to do with it, that we don't condone that level of, I don't even know what the word is, of dealing with somebody from a different country coming into your country and just dropping a couple of bombs. If you wanted to find this guy, you could have found that guy without bombing this little community that since then has been racked by, crime, and it wasn't necessary. But again, the bully always has other, I think we, myself included, I don't think I'm smart enough to understand the level of machination and how underhanded and I mean, I may see one thing, but they're seeing over here, over here, over here, and they say, oh, we can kill three at the same time. Let's just take them out. Remember Iraq? Yeah, let's go smoke them out. Where are the weapons? They don't need to justify, and they don't have to apologize. Oh, we just killed a few hundreds of thousand. We are just expendable. And I look at it like a game of chess, like what they did in Africa. They sat together and said, okay, all of us big wigs, and we know we want the gold and everything they have there. Who's going to have this one? And they drew lines and separated that continent to what it is now. We'll give you this little block over here. We'll take this block over here. You take this block. Yeah. Oh, them who live there, they're expendable. You have this guy from Brussels, just chopping little hands of little kids if they were hungry and stole something. Yeah. Putting kids in a pen in a park for people to come and look at you like you're a monkey, because that's what they call you. If you're not careful, that kind of thing is going to kill your spirit. So you cannot, like somebody said, allow yourself. When you see yourself go down that hole, you got to say, come back, come back, because your survival depends on it. So we are grateful for Panama for being resilient, because that's a good word. Resilient, that in the face of everything that have gone through, to still remain this calm, beautiful, loving place. And we are forever grateful. So during all that shenanigans, all the awful things that were happening, because you had the colonizers, most of them from Spain. It's like, oh my God, you mean they have land and stuff? Let's go down. So you had a bunch of them come. And even here now in Panama, you got a strong Spanish influence in the food, in the culture, flamenco dancing. When you go into the store, you see lots of Spanish influence in terms of food and culture, because that's a remnant of what happened in the past. As crazy as the past may be, it is still your past. And I am so grateful that Panama does not try to erase its past. It embraces it, all of it. So with the canal and just migration, you had people from Asia come in, People, other people from Europe come in, so they're here. You have a strong Chinese population here. Well, you have Chinese everywhere. But you got second, third generation Chinese here, and they speak Spanish. I'm always like, when I see a Chinese speaking Spanish, I think it's like the most beautiful thing. But when they were building the canal and they brought all these, the Africans were brought to work the land. So, and then you had the indigenous, those who didn't die, even though they try really hard to erase them, just like they try to erase us, and we just won't die. We're still here. So some stayed, right? A lot of them died during construction because it was rough and dangerous. But when it was all done, you had families here, so they stayed. So in Cologne, you have a strong Jamaican influence, reggae. People argue that reggaeton started in Cologne, and somebody said, no, it's Puerto Rico. I don't know. And I think they have the type of reggae that's gonna go with reggaeton, the music, la comida. When you go into Cologne, you think it's like a fusion of, because Panamanian itself, when you think of food, it's a fusion. Because don't forget, you have indigenous, you have Spanish, you got Asians, you got Afro, you have African, and you have Afro Caribbean. And they call them Afro Panamanians. So everything is a fusion. So Mil Pollera Festival is coming in January, and I got to make sure I go because I love that event. The pollera originated in Spain, right? This is, oh God, I forgot what I read. Um, it wasn't just one area of Spain, but when you see the polleras that is like really white with the laces and all the gold, that originates in Spain. But then you have the Congo polleras, and of course you had the slaves, and you had the Africans and the Caribbean people in that area. So they were patching pieces of cloth. Maybe that was discarded, and then they made their own version of the pollera. And when you go to Cologne, it's a specific culture. The Congo culture talks a lot about the colonizers and how they were trying to always chase them out of the land. And that's where they put the mask, the black tar on their faces. And then they do the dance. And the dance is like they're trying to get rid of the colonizer, and threw him away. And I took a picture with two. I went to the to Independence Festival in Cologne last month, and there were two guys, because I like the way they dance, the guy and the woman, and then the two guys had their thing on their face, and I'm like, "Me permite una foto?" They're like, "Sure," and I have a picture with two of them, uh, and then this lady, if you come from the other history where we come from, when somebody tries to put tar on their faces, it's not in a positive way. It's not for entertainment purposes. They're trying to make a statement that they want to ridicule you. So this sister said, I need to understand more about the blackface because it bothers me. It stirs, it trips people, it stirs negative emotion, but it doesn't mean the same thing here. And you have to understand that. I think the girl who calls herself, um, what she calls herself, actually, she left Panama. She's Panamanian. She came here from Brooklyn, and she did a video about Congo culture. And even there's a video about the Black Christ of Portobello. That's another story. But it is a unique culture, and it has nothing to do, there's no correlation between that culture and the slavery and Jim Crow and, things that happen in America. Um, so when you look at the food, you look at the festival, you're looking at values that are passed down. So when you think of Spain, even though this is what could mess with your mind. Even though they were doing all that killing and maiming and abusing of people down here, remember, in their mind, they're not committing a sin because they don't see you like they see themselves. You are not a human being at the same level. Wasn't it Winston Churchill who said that, if we take the land from the Africans and we manage it for them, we're doing them a favor because they're not smart enough to do it themselves. So they don't see it like that. But they were very religious, regardless. Isn't that what we're seeing right now? The nationalist Christianity or whatever, in the name of God and in the name of religion, you can commit all sorts of crime, but you're justifying it. Don't let it trip you. Do not let it trip you. I remember when I was getting ready to have a divorce, and I struggled with the decision for years because you had the church in your ear telling you, you're going to hell if you do this, you're good. And then I had to come to the realization, and I said, if the God I believe in would do that to me because of a decision, then with Houston, we have a problem. I have a problem with my belief system, right? Yes. Oh, white people worship too? Oh, that's interesting. So you have got to understand. So oh yeah, let's go back to the Spanish influence. So here in Panama, not only do you have Spanish restaurants, you have lots of Spanish style homes, you have lots of Spanish people who own property here, businesses. A lot of the apartments that we are renting are owned by Spanish people who may live in Spain, but still have businesses here, managers. The the soccer team that just qualified to go to the World Cup in 2026, their trainer, or whatever they call him, he's from Spain. So Spain is the influence. You know, Panama got its independence from Spain in 1821. Is my person here. Um, Ines, you're gonna tell me, right? 1821, and then from Colombia, 1905. I think I got those dates right. So that was a long time ago. But the influence and the culture is passed down. So the religious culture also is passed down. Even if what was done in the name of God, because you've seen those movies, the cardinals, they're doing all kind of crazy stuff, but they justify it in their head that they're doing it for the kingdom. You got slaves to do the work for the kingdom. You got to discipline your slave for the kingdom. So Panama is a very religious country, and Catholicism is very big because of the Spanish influence. We got lots of festival, lots of religious fiestas and coronations and processions everywhere in Panama. China here is, they're not as visible, but they are here, and they're Panamanian. I remember posting a question in 1903. Oh, okay. I thought it was 1905. Thank you. Um, they are they're very industrious. They work hard. And certain businesses in Panama are owned by Chinese. Those little mini supers, how many Panamanians do you see in there? And I posted that question one time, and I said in a Facebook group, and I said, why are all these mini supers owned by Chinese people? And someone said, because they work hard. The Panamanians don't work that hard because I didn't say it now, Auntie. Somebody else said it, Ines. And then that's because usually when you go there, it's a family, mom, dad, teenagers are working. It's a family affair. They don't usually hire non family members in their stores. And it doesn't matter where you go. I was in the mountains of Coquelin one time. The little bus had to go into the mountains. And I got there and there was one little store. And I'm like, I bet you it's a Chinese who owns it. And sure enough, you don't see a lot of Chinese in the streets. Maybe they all drive. Once in a while, I'll see a kid with all the kids that get on the buses during the day. Once in a while, I see one who look Asian. But remember, with all that mix and different people are intermarrying, right? So you have Chinese marrying Spanish people, Caribbean, indigenous. So there is a lot of mixing. That's why between 60 to 70% of the people here are called mestizos, which are mixed people. And a lot of them with darker skin complexion, but the hair may not be kinky like mine. And then, so you got Chinese restaurant, you got the little Chinatown in El Dorado here, and like I said, mini supers. Other businesses that they thrive and dominate here are like anything. They got some places SA where they have like a lot of commerce, import, exports. They do that. And also, if you're looking for any like laundromats, lavanderias, they call them, where they, dry cleaners and they do laundry. Usually I see Chinese people in there. But they are very under the radar. But I don't know what other type of businesses they own, but I'm sure they're into the financial center and other businesses. Then you have other groups like, I think someone told me they have people from the Middle East here. Like in Cologne, I was visiting one time and this guy took me inside a gated community. And he said there are all people from like Saudi Arabia and other places in there. And they had a mosque in there. And so you got these little enclaves. And then you go to places like Cologne or Rio Abajo or um, um, I said Costa del Este, not Costa del Este. What is the one outside of Bocas del Toro? You got heavy Caribbean influences in those areas. So La Música, the way they dress. Oh my God, when I go to Cologne the first time, I look at these kids, they were just beautiful, gorgeous. Even when I went to that recently, I went to the carnival, not carnival, the parade there in Cologne. I mean, I saw so many people with different braids, the hair. I was like, oh my God. And then the food, Caribbean, African. When you go to Bocas, you get a different type of, the cuisine is excellent, but the music is more calypso in Bocas than it is in Cologne. I'm looking here to see if Ines is going to correct me. But then you have our indigenous people. Oh my God, they're just so colorful. This is from this, what do they call that? It's called Bohanera or something like that in Cinco de Mayo, right across from the, right under the overpass. They have this stretch artisanal shops. And when I go in there and I'm talking to the people there, they're like from the Embera community and other indigenous communities, and they sell a lot of this. Now, when we had last month, you had um, Independence Month. They were selling a lot of, the lace shirt, which would be a remnant of Spanish culture, and then you have the skirts, you got the shoes, the leather, yellow leather shoes, and then I bought that. I love it, and I have a bag, the mola bag. So for the indigenous community, I remember when I was in Chile, you have multiple indigenous groups in the Americas. It's their land. Remember that, okay? It's like if you go to the continent of Africa, you have thousands of different tribes that speak thousands of different languages, and they dress differently, they dance differently, they move differently. Well, we have that in the Americas, okay? Because we came, not we, they came and just stirred the pot and moved them around. There's migration here, migration there. So when I went to Chile, you see some indigenous folks, they look a little different. Then I went to Peru. I saw some indigenous folks, and they're all like this big, like 4'3", really short and small. In Panama, they have multiple indigenous groups as well. But I think I read that they have 7 main ones. But the largest ones are the Embera, which is when you go, they've opened their communities to tourism, and that's the way for them to make some money. So when you go there, they explain their culture, they do the dance, they feed you. So that's a whole tour that you can have with the Embera community. They're the one that use the ink on their bodies, and you see it on their arms and the girls. Yes, beautiful. And they do some of this stuff also. They do lots of bracelets, everything by hand. Really good stuff. And then I think one of the other largest are the Guna Yala people. The Guna Yalas are the ones where you go to, what is that? The beach, San Blas. They own that area. And also, that's something to understand that after the colonizers took over their land, some of those communities have fought back to retain ownership of their land. And their lands are usually inside, it's not like in the city. So there's another history where I think some government wanted to impose something on the Gunayala people, and they fought back, and then they retained the rights to their land and their culture. So if you want to go, somebody would ask me, well, can I just drive to the San Blas Island? I think the guides have to get permission from the chief, and they have to pay a fee for you to be allowed to go visit their community. And that's just plain showing respect, right? The Gunayala, they wear the mola motif. So there's a mola museum in Casco Viejo. If you want to learn more about that, make sure you go. You need to visit museums. If you come to Panama, if you live in Panama, you need to go to the museum. The Bio Museo on the Amador, that's a must. And I think inside Casco, they have multiple museums. You need to go visit those. And that Museo del Canal, the Canal Museum that is open till 5, they have free exhibits today because of the history. The best, I don't want to say rendition, explanation of what they are remembering today, that's where you get the best information at the Museo del Canal in Casco Viejo. So if you don't make it today, make it a point to visit. But the Mola Museum is not too far from them, and they explain to you why every single woman in that tribe wears that thing on their shirt. And they wear a certain amount of skirt, and they wear beads on their legs, and some of the older ladies have something on their in their hair. So respect culture, and the gold and all that, that is their own culture. And then you have the other tribe that is one of the largest, is that Embera Gunayala Ngabe Bugle. Ngabe Bugle is like in Chiriqui, Bocas del Toro. Those are the ones who wear that flowy red or blue dress. And once you see them in the street, you see them all over the place. So you know which tribe they belong to. They have some other smaller tribes, but I'm not familiar with those. But I know about those three main ones. Now they have their own culture, their own dances, the way they dress, their own family concept, and the food. The indigenous are big at fishing. um, they what do you call that? Hunting, and they harvest a lot of corn and yucca. And so if you go to like the Embera, you take the tour, they're gonna probably serve you chicken or fish, right? If you go to what is it? Not Taboga. When you go to the islands for the Gunayala, San Blas, usually your lunch is included. It's gonna be rice, fish, or chicken, and patacones, fried plantains. Okay. Now remember, we don't do a lot of veggies here in these Panama streets, but well, once in a while you might see some veggies, but this is not a high priority. So you have all that. If you go to a fonda, you're gonna find tamales, which is a corn-based thing. A lot of Panamanians drink sesame in the morning with an empanada. That's that corn porridge. They will drink that limonada con raspadura. It's lemonade with that block cane sugar. They use that a lot. Chicken, fish, lentejas, lentils, and now for the holidays, it's um, what is it again? That those little peas that they oh, guandu. Yes, guandu is what they're gonna eat for the holidays, and then they love ham and chicken and other things. So when you look at Panama, this guy said it's a paella. It's a paella of cultures: Spanish, Indigenous, Asian, Afro Caribbean. The sancocho soup, that is the national dish of Panama, originated in Africa, like most things, right? And every country in the Caribbean has a version of that soup. We have our own version. We call it soup jumu, and we make it on January 1st. They do it in Colombia. They do it in the DR. They do. We are all interrelated somehow. But the reason I wanted to give you that little backdrop to history is that you need to understand why Panamanians love to celebrate their religious holidays, where that came from. When you see every event, you see the polleras, the girl, and they're so proud, the pride on their faces, the little girls, when you see them doing the parades, and they're just so happy and proud to be Panamanian. If I go, when you go to that show that they do, the artisanal fair that they do at what is that place? At Lapa, sometime in the fall, I think. And you see the kids there, and everybody is taking part, and everybody's eating, and they just embrace it all. So you're gonna see pollera dancing at every event, whether they're having heads of state. I mean, sometimes we have like a ballet thing. They have pollera dance. Last year, I went to an event in Casco Viejo. I think it was at the museum, Museo del Canal, where they did a presentation about the different types of polleras, where you can find them in this country and their origin. Because sometimes the skirt is different. That little ball they have here could be different. The way they do the hair could be different. I mean, I sat there and I'm like, oh my God, so many variations. Yes. And I think it adds richness to a culture to have that much diversity, but yet everybody embraces it and everybody is so proud of it. The Catholic influence is huge. And the Monsignor here, he's very involved in a lot of things. If they have a political stuff, he's gonna chime in. And that's the way the Catholic Church has been. I was raised in the Catholic Church. They're very socially aware. All right. But at the same time, anything that comes from the religious culture about marriage, abortion, same-sex marriages, and all that is wired in the fabric of the country. So you have to understand where that comes from. That's where it comes from. Okay? Indigenous people, they raise their families differently. Now, I don't know about marriage and stuff like that. I haven't gotten deep in the weeds of that. Then you have the Afro-Caribbean, how they celebrate their music, their food. There is a big focus on Cologne right now because Cologne was thriving at one point, and then you had these fires. All right, I'm not going to say anything about that. But then again, that little place, community has struggled since. Like Shorio, you bomb it and then it's struggling. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but sometimes I just. So there are efforts, and again, just like I said, you can't say, "Well, they did this. Well, we just thought." No, somebody's going to rise up and say. Now they say, "Arriba Colon, let's raise Colon back up." The spirit of those people is amazing. And I remember one day I was visiting because I made like 3 trips before I moved here, and I was talking to a cab driver. They were having some protest somewhere, and I'm like, "Well, what's going on there?" And his comment to me were like, "Oh, people from Cologne, they just like to complain, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Well, that sounds like human element. One group has their own opinion about another, and so it's not perfect. It's not perfect, but they are all here. They love their country, and you have the Etnia Negra is it in May? I don't remember what month it is, a whole month where they celebrate Black heritage. And what I like about it, it's not just Black people celebrating. Everybody is wearing the African garb, the little kids. It's just lovely. Panama is not perfect, but it's definitely better than some places I've been. Okay. So for that reason, I wanted to kind of give you a little synopsis. Start thinking of questions you may have to ask me if I know the answer, or if I don't, I'll tell you. I don't think I know that answer. But I think it makes you a more enlightened resident, and just so that we keep remembering that we are foreigners in this land, and our job is to understand the people and adjust to the culture, showing respect, um, and just getting along, falling in line with. I love the holidays. Like for Christmas, I need to look to see because the Monsignor is always at the Basilica there in Casco Viejo, so I need to find a service there. I'm not Catholic anymore, but it's not even about that. They celebrate their Christian holidays. Yes, they have lots of saints that they celebrate. There was even a saint that they celebrate. They were in boats on the water. I think it was El Carmen. Yes, it's like, oh. And then you have the Cristo Negro in Portobello. And it's a fascinating history about how it landed in Portobello. You can read about that. There is a lot of faith here when they're celebrating Saint Joaquin or whoever, and then these little ladies would look in the camera, in the news, and they say, "Oh, but I prayed, and he or she delivered me of so many things." I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school through high school, so I understand the amount of faith people have in their saints or whoever. Who am I to tell them they're wrong? Faith makes the world go round. That is their anchor, right? And that's why they're able to go on despite the bombing, despite things that have been done to them. If you don't have that faith, I don't know how people do it. I don't know. You have to be able to believe in something. Otherwise, you're going to lose yourself. Yep. Yes, ma'am. Respect, respect, respect. You don't need to have an opinion. No one asks you. Zip it up. You're a guest. Etnia Negra is a celebration in May. Yes, the whole month of May. And I love that. You know, I see the little kids, the parents with the little babies. And the mil polleras, same thing. They have little girls, little cute ones with the polleras. I saw even a little puppy with his little hat on. That was so funny. All right, guys. You guys, I know, isn't it interesting? And I think wherever you go, wherever you choose to migrate to, I think you owe it to yourself and to the people you're going to live amongst to know their history and not keep asking, why do y'all do this? You should know. You should know. Cologne and Haiti have things in common. They are black and proud people. Well, yeah, well, that's a whole different story of what they did to that poor little country, my country. First country to get their independence, and they have been paying for it ever since. I said, how dare you think you something? What's happening over there now in the US is like, yo, thought you had this and this. We're going to bring you right back. Yes. Uh huh. Whew. Sometimes it's a lot to digest. It's a lot. But you know, in Panama, they love Haitian music. Compa. I don't know how where the crossover is, and someone hasn't been able to explain to me. But I'm sure they probably got people from there to come here working the canal too. You know, remember the migration to the UK also. You know, they recruited people from Jamaica to go to the UK to work, and then after that, they're trying to act crazy and you know they're superior. I'm like, well, you went there, you recruited those folks to come work. What do you expect? I tell you, sometimes it really gets on your nerve. Yep. Uh, yeah, the inhumanity. And what I've come to realize again is that while you scandalize about what they're doing, they don't see it. It's business as usual. What are you upset about? That's how they roll. And it's not, it's not a secret. They've always moved like that. And the plan has always been for them to be on top and to do whatever. All the wars, it's like, I want that land. I want that. Oh, just kill a few thousand. Who cares? You're expendable. That's why I say don't hang on to your life too tight because somebody may decide your life has no value. And then you're like, but I'm a human being. But they don't see you as a human being. That's the problem. You're not worthy. I mean, we know intrinsically we are, right? So what they think about me is not who I am. But you got to get into their head to see where they're at. So you can live with yourself to say, whatever you're saying, it doesn't touch me because that's not who I am. That's just your opinion of me. And because you have the power, you can choose to hurt me because you have the power, the means to do it. But it's got nothing to do with you, your personal value. And that's why certain cultures, they try everything they can to just crush you, but your spirit rises. Like, what's her name says, still I rise. You know, what's her name again? You could tell me. I forgot her name. Um, her name's on the tip of my tongue. But you you can't allow someone to turn you into some what they think you are. Then you have failed. Then you've given into their madness. But if I say, no, 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 I am who I am, your opinion of me is just that. And I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt who said, no one can make you feel inferior without your permission. So whatever somebody thinks of you, I'm like, well, that's your opinion. It's got nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me. You're welcome. Trying to wrap my mind to that way of thinking regarding mañana. That, yeah. Listen, even those of us who know, when you're in that situation, trust me, it's not pleasant. Your blood pressure still rises a little bit. And then when you get out of it, you're like, I should have known. Nothing's going to rush for you. It's like, take a seat. Like it's like, siéntese por favor. It's like, uh-oh, I remember going to the bank and they tell me siéntese. 3 hours later, I'm still seated. Ay, thank you, Greta. I know. But you know, I am not the person that is the doom and gloom, right? Because as I said, you got to reach deep and grasp onto something so you don't give in to their madness. Because if you give up, you don't continue fighting. That's the essence of your life as a person who's been marginalized, who's been, you know, people have spat at some people, they hit, they do all kinds of things, even amongst ourselves in our communities. People will try to do this kind of thing. But you hang on to who you are. And it's like, no, I'm not going to allow you to do this to me. And if I need to tell you you're wrong, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. Right? But in certain environments, you kind of have to be smart about how you move, especially in today's environment. Gotta watch what you say. I've said a lot today, but I don't think I've attacked anybody. Those are just things that are in the history books. We're trying to burn them, and we don't want you to know. But nobody can could put a gate around your mind. You can continue to expand. Information is everywhere. The rabbit is out of the hole. So if somebody wants to kind of shut down the internet so nobody can find information, it's too late. It's too late. Because when they say they're burning the book or they're banning the books, you can still teach your children, you could still teach your grandchildren, you can still find your own way of learning. That they can't control that. But if you say, oh, well, they're not going to teach that in the school, therefore, this is where the fight comes, the survival, keeping your culture, your spirit. You got to keep it up. Somebody can kind of take something and beat you, whatever, deport you, do whatever, but your spirit. And there are thousands of examples of people who've been, in the wars, everything they do to people, and some people still manage to survive. Nelson Mandela, all these years in jail. Listen, the spirit is it's a hard thing to kill. But it's like a little plant. You got to water it. You got to keep it alive. Right? Any question? Like dress code here is very conservative, especially in our age group. You're not gonna see women walking around with like little short. I saw one around the Cinta Costera today, and this guy was just staring. I don't think he was staring because he was excited to see it. It was like, he had the butt cheeks, and I'm like, I'm sure it wasn't a Panamanian. They are very conservative in their dress. And even in some areas of the country, even more so. I remember being in Chitre. Chitre to me felt very Spanish influenced. And when I went to that church on Easter Sunday and I looked around, yes, the ladies were wearing pantyhose. I was having a hot flash just watching that. And the way they do their hair, they have the little stud earrings, very conservative, yes. And the music inside the church was very Spanish guitar. So the influence is flowing, and I'm just lapping it up. I love that. And I do a lot of things to also distract myself. I don't feed myself a daily diet of bad news. I mean, the news is always bad, but why would I be sitting there for hours listening to it? This is where you don't control your mind, because sometimes all that you ingest, it will do something to you. So be careful. You're welcome, Auntie. Let's see, we talked about the food, we talked about dress code, talked about religion. Socially, Panama is kind of conservative, right? Because you have a lot of Catholic influence. Um, so there is respect for authority, there is respect for older people. When I'm teaching Spanish, I'm telling them how to address people. There is formality between somebody in authority, you and usted, you know how you address people. I was watching something on TV. Well, I think I was on the computer earlier. This woman was having a fit in a store, and she was attacking a security guard. I think it's here in Panama, and she was going at it. And this little security guard, who was a young man, you could see he was reluctant to do anything while this woman was grabbing him by the collar, and he was smiling, and of course that got the woman more irate. And all the workers were saying, Doña, 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 which is what they call an older person, a woman, out of respect, right? Well, you know, if you were seeing that over there at the Wendy's, they would have just, that's culture. That's culture. When you slip in the middle of the street and everybody comes around saying, oh, what are you there? Do you need help? That's culture, because over there, you know, they're going to step and pass over you and keep moving. Culture. People getting in the elevator saying buenas, buenas, culture. People don't greet you over there. They look at you straight in the eye and just keep it moving. Culture, no connection, no relationship. We don't have that here. So you got to learn that. And if you come from over there, you may feel uncomfortable in the beginning, but then you get used to it because you're like, oh, this is nice. This is refreshing. That's what I hear. Yeah, garbage in, garbage out. But very conservative mindset, dress, respect. When I get on the metro, the message on the PA says, your attention, por favor. Las mujeres embarazadas, people with children, people mayores like myself, merecen, they deserve priority seating. So if you're sitting down and a little lady walks in with a cane, people get up. If somebody walks in pregnant, people jump, let them sit. Somebody with a child, they'll get up to let them sit. Culture. Holiday, familia, familia, familia. Something, something I experienced. I went to a movie one time, and I like to sit like in the middle, so I can kind of. And then a family came in. It was abuelo, abuela, two or three tios, tias, children, mom, pop. I mean, I was in the middle. They were going across me. They took the whole row, and I was in the middle. So I had little kids climbing on me to get to the mother. And when they go to the beach, when they go to the movies, it's like the whole familia come. Okay, so you gotta get used to that. And then so you're not gonna say, "Oh my God, these children are." And when you see the dog everywhere, culture, dogs everywhere. They love dogs. They don't like cats, but they love dogs. Lynette, thank you. Thank you guys. Let's see. How long have we been on? Oh, hour and 30 minutes. Okay. Any other question, guys? I know you kept me talking, talking. I know I was like in a moment in the beginning, but I want you got to think. I'm a thinking person. You got to see what's going on around you. We cannot afford to be oblivious. You have to understand the system that is trying to crush you and how you can live while you're in it. That's called survival. Well, it's a good thing, Mama, if you don't have a problem, because I had a lady tell me, well, I'm one of them. I'm a shorts and sleeveless. I'm like, you can wear what you want. Nobody's gonna tell you anything. You may get a few stares, but no one's gonna tell you anything. Even I, if I'm walking, I'm in the streets all the time, and I see somebody, and I'm like, I know she's not Panamanian. If I see a guy in the middle of the week with shorts and flip flop, I know he's not Panamanian because most of them don't wear that. They may on weekends at the beach, but the dress code is very conservative in the city. Yep. So don't offend people by just showing too much skin and all your piercing and all of that. We don't have that here. All right, you guys, I'm glad you appreciate my shenanigans. So, I like to share information because I believe information needs to be shared and we need to be enlightened to, where we are in this world. People, ask questions, well, what if? I don't have an answer to the what ifs. No one knows what somebody's cooking up in their sick mind right now. We at the mercy of the elites. Mm, you are. All righty. Oh, secret conversation podcast. Oh, I keep saying I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to do like 5 minutes of encouraging and thoughtful, thought provoking thing. What I need to do is to record like 30 episodes and then have them just scheduled to just go. And those would be without my face. Maybe the first one I do my face. After that, it's just going to be listening with my picture. And so I could try to get it to schedule it for like 7 a.m. Well, 7 a.m. my time. So that it was like to start your day and get you in the right frame of mind. So you can kind of deal with whatever this crazy world could throw at you because they're going to throw things at you. Things will happen, but how are you going to respond? It depends on where your head is at the moment. And nobody is in the right frame of mind all the time. We human beings, we have good moments and we have not so good moments. But I don't think you have a choice to give up and give in. I'm not a give up and give in kind of person. So I don't know why we're allowed to live in this world, but we are. So gotta make the best of it, right? You going back to the beginning. Hit the like button, please. Yes, please hit the like button. Yeah, you can still share the live with someone. I think someone asked me for my recipe for the biscotti. I think I'll do it while I'm sitting here so I don't forget. A lot of things on my plate. Tomorrow, um, like I said, I'm cooking that saltfish and I'm cooking that cornmeal like a grits, and then we're gonna put it on top. And I think my last avocado might be ready. It would be a nice thing to put some avocado with that, which would kind of bring back some memories of my childhood. That would be something we would have for breakfast, like on a holiday or on the weekend. Yes. And this girl turned me on to Panamanian hot chocolate. You have to buy. I'll post it in the post section. There's a place in El Congrejo here. We have cocoa growers in Panama. I didn't even know we had that. And it's like a cooperative to kind of help sell the product. And I'm trying to help him and push it too. So I want to buy because I like hot chocolate. Oh my God, the bread that's gonna I just finished eating that biscotti that I'm gonna have to work on and not eat for a couple of days. And then the rosca is coming. They eat that bread, that round, what do you call that? Twisted bread, and then they put the almonds in it. Listen, You just rip a piece of it, and I'm a dipper in my coffee and hot chocolate. I'm gonna hurt myself. I know that because starting Monday, yes, and the hot chocolate you use it. It's not the powder. It's not. It doesn't come in a little packet. You know, in the little packet is full of chemicals and stuff. But they make the chocolate, they solidify, and then they cut it and they put it. And she said you can buy it, and what you all you do is just boil your water or your milk, and then you take a piece of that chocolate and you put it in there, and you get hot chocolate. And we had it at the retreat. Very good, very good. And if it's to support the locals, I'm gonna do it. But chocolate has caffeine, and then it's got a nice amount of fat in it, so you're gonna have to watch out. Um, so starting Monday, I'm gonna talk about. I have some saril that I had ordered with the delivery, so I'm gonna make saril. And someone asked me to live when I'm making that drink. So that's a drink. I have the rum punche, which is the punch rum punch. Somebody gave me one. It's got eggs in it. I'm a little but I'm gonna try it just because she gave it to me. Arroz con guandu. I cooked it last year. It was like, I wasn't that crazy about it because I'm not eating rice like that, but I will cook it so you guys could see. The guandu are small little black beans. They're not exactly like pigeon peas that you have in the US, but I've seen some green ones and then they turn black, I guess, with rice. They eat rice, a lot of rice. And then the meat, I can't help because they have like a big leg of the pig. They call it pierna de cerdo, and they cook it and they put all kinds of things in it to cook it in the oven. And I was like, oh, if I ate that, I would get sick. I know that. But they also have ham. You can have the ham and slice it, putting all that pineapple and stuff. I could never do that at home because the salt content was just too much for me. I would blow up like a balloon. Just like I can't have soy sauce a lot, I can't have the ham because it's too salty. But they eat ham. So, and then this lady said for the holidays, like on Christmas morning, they like to have a piece of that round bread with some of that ham. And that's her memory, something to associate with Christmas. Yes. And around the holidays in Panama, they use a lot of fruits, lots of grapes and apples. Yes. And sangria, they make sangria with, you have the wine, some ginger ale, or at home I used to use the white grape juice and all that. And then you leave it for a day or two with the fruits, oranges, grapes. They love grapes and some apples, and then it kind of gives a good um, taste to the sangria. And then they do the chicha de saril. Chicha de saril is that fresh red flour that I'm going to make. And then you put canela, which is cinnamon. You put ginger, fresh ginger. Somebody was making sorrel, she called it, because she's Jamaican. She's Jamaican. And this lady said, leave the ginger out of it. Do it. I'm like, I didn't never heard of that. So she's like, it's chemistry, the mixture. She said the ginger kills the taste of the sorrel. So I don't know because I love ginger. And then this girl added to it. She said her mom put orange peel and allspice. Of course, she's Jamaican. They love allspice and everything. But I'm thinking you put that in and you boil it. You boil the flour, so that should give a good flavor. But what I don't like is that you have to use that cane sugar to sweeten it, and I don't use white sugar at all unless I'm baking. Like I just did the biscotti. I use you Jamaican. We always add ginger to sorrel. She did, but she said don't put it in when it's boiling. She said put it at the end, not like separate and then bring it together, but not boil it together. I don't know. I don't know. And a bit of rum. Ooh, yum. I can see that. Yes, but yes, they have sorrel, they have fruit. So I don't know if they have any kind of veggies. Sometimes, oh, they have the salad, ensalada de papa. They have a potato salad that is red with beets and mayonnaise. That is a holiday potato salad. They have that on the table as well. Arroz con guandu, the pork, the ham. Um, we got the drinks, but sometimes they'll have a little salad on the side, like an afterthought, but they're not into that salad. Yep. But anyway, that's what they eat for the holidays. And it's like, and I told you that the government, they did the, um, what did they call them? The box for the holidays where they give him a ham and they give him rice, they give him pigeon peas, and they give him sugar and salt, and they were able to get it for like $15. You normally add the ginger after the sorrel. Ah, okay, maybe that's what she meant. Maybe that's what she meant because this girl had. It looked like she had blended the ginger and was adding it to the sorrel. I could see that. She said when you boil them together, it messes up the taste of the. I can see if you add it later. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yes, because it's all chemistry, right? All right, ladies. I don't know if there are any gents, but we are done. All right. I don't see anything else. I'm going to say hasta la vista. Thank you so much for being here on the live. And I will see you guys tomorrow morning. It's going to be a quick one because that doesn't take long to cook the corn and then so I'm going to start soaking the cod tonight. All right. Au revoir. Good afternoon. Have a good evening. Bye bye. Bye, Greta, Lynette, Clayton, Auntie, Secret Conversation Podcast. I like that name. Deborah. Thank you, guys. Ines Blanco. Tamales. Oh, they do tamales for the holidays too. Very good. But no fish for la Navideña, no? Because I think they do fish for Easter. But not for Christmas. And they put boiled egg in that potato salad and beets for the color. We used to call that where I come from salad russe, like Russian salad, because the Russian is a lot of beets. Salad can be an immune bomb. Smash ginger a little for cloves. Oh, has the laurel, anise, raspadura. Oh. Cloves definitely could help because it's so strong. Laurel in the sorrel? Wow. No, I think I would leave that bay leaf out. Anise? Yes. Yeah. That raspadura? Yes. Alrighty. Bye, ladies. Thank you. Have a good night. Bye bye.